Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ed. Is that a Trout Davis original? All right. Yeah, these guys wrote that, so. Yeah. Well, good morning. There was a kingdom far, far away, and in the kingdom was a princess, and she ended up getting an open sore right next to her eye. She would complain about it a lot. She'd pick at it so that it wasn't healing. The king's doctor came, applied some medicine, but because she kept monkeying around with it, it wouldn't heal. So the king put out a call to anyone who could heal the sore that's on his princess's face. So a man came to the door, said, "I think I can help you." And so he brought her in to the princess, and he looked at the sore in the princess's eye. Oh, my goodness. And she says, What? Oh, that's okay. I probably shouldn't say anything about it. He goes, No, really, you have to say. He goes, No, I don't want to scare you or concern you. He says, Now you really have to tell me. And he says, No, it's best I not say something. And the king comes in, and she explains what's going on. And the king says, No, you must tell her, after all. I'm the king. She's the princess. He says, Oh, okay, well, he goes, the sore will heal in a couple of days, but she has a rare condition in which she may start growing a tail. And the tail may grow to be 20 feet long. And oh my God, is there anything we can do about it? He goes, well, when you first notice it start to grow, call me again and I can arrest the development of the tail. But you need to really be watching and looking for this tail to start growing. And so the next couple of days, the princess was scared, and she was always checking herself to see if she was growing a tail. And the sore on her eye healed, and they never had to call the man again because she didn't grow a tail. But the man saw that the problem was that she was focused on something she didn't want. And she kept manifesting it by picking, at this sore. So if we can take our mind off of something that we don't want and start to look at perhaps something we do want rather than growing a tail. But the key here is just shifting the energy, taking the focus off of something. Especially when you do focus on it for some time, you can build up some energy on it. We're reading the book E-Squared. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's written by Pam Grout, who actually goes to the Unity Church in Lawrence, Kansas. She's an accomplished writer, freelance, has written several books. She's also written episodes of TV shows, that sort of a thing. And going to the Unity Church there and talking with the minister, she was kind of like, well, maybe there's some way I can bring these principles to a wider audience and show people, about that the God that perhaps they grew up with isn't the God that they really believe in. Because a lot of us who were taught things about God, and early in life, perhaps we tried to demonstrate it. I know I grew up Catholic and praying, and I didn't see any answers for my prayers. So I got that in my mind that, it's useless to pray because you don't get an answer anyway. Well, it wasn't because I was praying, it was because perhaps I was focusing on the wrong thing when I was praying. Now, if you weren't here for the other lessons, no problem. We actually have our lessons posted online, or you can actually request a CD there by the bookstore. And the book is available in our book and gift shop. But let me give you an excerpt from E-Squared. Currently, our minds are devoted to the things we do not want. Our positive intentions occupy but a tiny sliver of our minds. The rest is focused on the problems we hope the intentions will eliminate. The reason 99% of your mind is still devoted to the things you don't want is because that's the world's default setting, what it defines as normal. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's interesting how conventional wisdom of our society is to prepare for the worst. Always be focusing on making sure that you aren't harmed rather than thriving. So when the story with the princess, like I said, when she shifted from always monkeying and playing around and worrying about the sore on her eye, it healed. So we have to look at what are we clinging to rather than what we're letting go of. The author continues, your body is an imposter, a tiny fraction of who you really are. 99% of who you are is invisible, untouchable. At each moment you mold and shape this energy by your consciousness. You do so with every thought, every intention, every action. How you feel, what you think, what you believe, what you value, and how you live your life affect how the energy of the universe flows through you. Now this week we're focused on chapter 3 of the book. There are 9 chapters in which each of them she has an experiment for you to prove that indeed there is a field of potentiality, as she calls it. Of course, in Unity we call it God. There is this field of energy everywhere. Traditional Christians call it the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, the thing that's always there, always ready to work for you. But in chapter 3, she calls it the Albert Einstein Principle. And that is, of course, Albert Einstein, quantum physicist, broke all of the old, perhaps, ways of thinking about physics. And everything is vibrating energy. You're sitting on a chair that when you take a very quantum look at, you find it's vibrating energy. And that's why you can sit on it and not hit the ground. Our bodies are vibrating energy. The cells in our bodies are vibrating energies. Every cell in your body has this amazing way of responding to the signals sent out, by your mind, by your brain. So if we are vibrating energy and we live in a field of energy, is it possible that we can direct the energy to do the things that we want it to do? And the simple answer is yes. This fact has been discovered and confirmed by all who look deeply and intently in any arena of life. Scientists, spiritual leaders, philosophers. Just a few of the people who have discovered and talked about this amazing field of potentiality, this energy, are Plato, Newton, Carnegie, Beethoven, Shakespeare, and of course Albert Einstein. Spiritual masters have spoken of this law of attraction. This whatever energy you put out, your thoughts, especially your feelings, when you put that passion out, sure enough, it sends out a signal that draws to you the things indeed that you are seeking. Or it guides you to that place or to that person who can answer your questions. Or perhaps help you meet your needs. There's a Bible story, of course there are many Bible stories that illustrate that, but I chose one. It's from the Gospel of Matthew, 14th chapter, 22nd verse. Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side of the sea while he dismissed the crowds. And after Jesus dismissed the crowds, he went up onto a mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was distant from the land, beaten by waves, for the wind was against them. And in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus came to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and saying, "Hey, take heart. It is I. There's no need for fear." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. And just as he was about to reach Jesus, he looked away at the wind, and he was afraid, and he began to sink into the water, and he cried out, "Lord, save me!" Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they both got into the boat, the wind ceased. Whenever in the Bible it talks about going up onto the mountaintop, what they're talking about is a higher consciousness, being willing to let behind this physical world and meditate, get in touch, kind of just get all of the obstacles you've set up to that divine flow out of your way. Any boat or any vessel, or like a cart in the Bible, is an individual consciousness. So this would be like, say, you or I, individual consciousness. And we're out there on the sea, our journey of life. We're heading somewhere, and in this particular case, The wind is against us. Have you ever felt like the wind is in your face? You know, the thing you're trying to do isn't happening? And then there's the storm, the ups and downs of the sea. You ever experienced this in your life? Jesus represents spiritual awareness. Except in the Gospel of John, with some of the discourses, and then he represents the true Christ and God consciousness. So Jesus is spiritual awareness. Now, it's interesting that these 12 guys are out in the boat and they don't have the spiritual awareness with them. And, of course, the wind is pounding and the sea. And but they do notice that Jesus is walking on the water. Now, this is important symbolism because he's walking on the water. What he's saying is there's nothing wrong with there being a spiritual awareness in your physical world. It can handle whatever is being thrown at you. If Jesus was hovering above the water, we'd have a whole different type of symbolism there. But Jesus is there, and he's walking on the storms of your life. I'm going to ask Jesse to put up a slide. Each of the 12 disciples represents an aspect of you. You have been given these 12 spiritual gifts, and that's why Jesus, after he has his temptations and all, goes and gathers his 12 disciples. Now, you don't need to write all of these down. I actually have a handout after the service. It's on the bench right next to the minister's office. You can take one if you wish, if you're not familiar with the 12 powers. But that's why Jesus calls these 12, and that's the key for you too. Are you aware that you have all of these? Call them forth, and they will serve you. Now, Peter represents faith. So wow, we recognize the spiritual awareness, and even in the middle of a big storm, we step out in faith and start to go, reach. We want to touch the spiritual awareness. Well, it's always there for us, but in this particular case, we think it's separate from us. So Peter's walking towards him, and just as he's about to get to him, he loses his focus. Like the princess picking at the sore at her eyes, like, oh my God, I forgot I'm in the storms of life. Looks away from the spiritual awareness and starts to sink. And of course, that's become part of our lexicon, right? You have that sinking feeling, or you're feeling down. But Jesus reaches out, says, you of little faith? I mean, you are faith. Why would you look away? So it is good to step out in faith. But, as you may have noticed, you've got a committee here. You can take some of them or all of them with you. Now, Peter stepped out in faith, but wouldn't it have been wise to take along, maybe a little spiritual strength, some willpower, some understanding, some zeal? That might have been helpful in the storms of life. And it is. They are helpful in the storm of life. So be willing to bring along the other guys, too. Your 12 powers can help you meet any challenge in your life. Now, someone asked blind pianist Ray Charles what special insights he had after he lost his vision as a child. And he answered, it's right underneath your fingers, baby. That's all you have to understand, that everything is right there underneath your fingers. Every living thing has a unique energy signature, a vibration. You're vibrating at perhaps a different rate than someone sitting near you. And as human beings, we find that when we focus on something, our vibration can change. If we're focusing on something very positive, there's an expansion of this energy field around us. There are some people who are sensitive enough that they can actually see the aura around us. Carol and I knew someone up in Chicago from the Unity Church up in Evanston, Illinois. She could see auras. And she could see, just watching you, she could see maybe a change in your color, or the aura would expand or contract. So we actually have this energy field around us that we don't maybe perhaps see. Or negative, there's that contraction that happens. And as we've talked about before, there are these polar opposites from which we can choose, and that is love or fear. Now, a lot of people think hate is the opposite of love, but it isn't. Hate is a reaction to the fear. It's a defensive reaction to fear. So when we're feeling love, we can kind of feel that energy, that spinning circle, the chakra to our heart just kind of open up. And when we're feeling fear, we can feel it just kind of contract. And this happens to our energy field as well. And this applies to whatever area of your life perhaps you're having a challenge. Is it your health? Is it your occupation? Are you having a relationship challenge? And I mean anything from a business relationship to the most intimate relationships in your life. Are you having a challenge with your spiritual awareness? Are you finding yourself looking at the storm a little too often rather than at the Christ consciousness that's walking on the water for you? And then, of course, your finances. You know, we're having the seminar here this afternoon about finances, your money supply. So this week, Pam Grout gives us an experiment to kind of show us that the matter, the vibrating energy outside of us, will respond to our thoughts. Now, I'm 58 years old, and I remember when cars used to have an external radio antenna sticking off the front fender. Remember those? You know, the real old ones used to telescope or push down. And of course, there would be the times where maybe it would get caught on something and you rip the antenna off. Or someone would be mean and rip the antenna off on you. So here you had this nub on the corner of your fender, and the radio wouldn't work because it wasn't picking up a radio signal. But what was the quick fix before you could get the radio signal fixed? A wire hanger from your closet. Didn't matter what shape the hanger was, but if you just tied that on there, that wire hanger, that little triangle would give you your radio signal. So these wire hangers would pick up radio signals. Well, it ends up it'll pick up signals from you too. So Pam Grout suggests you take a wire hanger, you cut right down the middle of the bottom rung, and then you untwist the top, so you've got two halves, and then you bend it into an L shape. So you've got, maybe about a 12-inch length there, the long part of the lower part of the hanger, and then you've got at a right angle about 6 inches of wire there as well. And then you get a straw, cut it in half, and put the wire in the straw, kind of bend the very bottom of it so it doesn't fall out. And of course, the hanger will flop around a little bit, but then it'll stop. So she suggests you make 2 of these, and then you hold them. And just take a nice deep breath and clear your mind. And then when you've cleared your mind, you start the experiment, especially after the wands that used to be the hanger are just kind of hanging out in front of you. And that is when you start to think of something negative, or if you dive into fear, you'll notice that the wires come in and touch each other because they're following the contraction in your energy field. When you think of something positive, they'll open up. And then the next part of the experiment is, say you've got someone, like for example, Dawn sitting over here to my left. If I just start to really think about Dawn and picture Dawn in my mind, that the wires will swing and start to point towards Dawn. Now, we actually did this experiment up here on the platform in October, but the feedback I got is people couldn't see the hangers. So I started thinking the answer to just about every question is the internet, and the visual part of any question is YouTube. And sure enough, there's a woman. It's funny because there are a lot of them on YouTube, and you still can't see the hangers, but this one woman got zoomed in, and she used a white hanger so you could actually see what was going. And she's a fan of the University of Georgia football team, so that'll kind of explain her experiment. But I'm going to have Jesse fire this 1-minute video of her demonstrating this technique.
For the experiment, I'm going to first try to let them kind of center out and just be neutral. And then I'm going to think of something that makes me upset. So for this experiment, I'm going to think about the Georgia versus Missouri game yesterday, which was where the Dogs lost in Athens. So right now, just I'm going to take a deep breath and think about that game and how I felt. Okay, I'm not doing anything except thinking about how I felt bad yesterday, and look at that. It just completely crossed right in the middle. So now I'm going to, okay, Janet, let it go. It's just a game. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to center myself back. Now I'm going to think of something exciting and fun. So how about when the Dogs beat Tennessee the week before, and everything was glorious, that last minute touchdown pass that Aaron Murray threw with 0.05 seconds on the clock. It was amazing, and we went into overtime. And then the guy kicked the field goal. Oh, that was awesome. Okay. And there they go outward. I'm only just holding it exactly how it was. So I'm just excited because that was a great win.
So you get the so that kind of give you that visual. But I really encourage you to do this. I mean, that's the strange thing about it. And here again, we talk about the five senses, but then the sixth sense, that the things outside of you respond. And here you've got these wire hangers that will respond to your energy. Here's another quote from the book. At each moment, you mold and shape this energy by your consciousness. You do so with every thought, every emotion, every intention, every action, how you feel, what you think, believe, and value, and how you live your life affects how the energy flows through you. So let's recap. Experiment number 3. Page 65 in the book, she says, the Einstein principle is that everything is a field of energy, therefore you too are a field of energy. The theory, you are a field of energy in an even bigger field of energy. So, could it be true that I can prove that I'm made of energy? The hypothesis, if I am energy, I can direct energy. Time required, she says, well, you should be able to complete this in 2 hours. So choose a day, choose a time, write it down. And then the approach, she always likes to have a little bit of fun with the approach. She says, is, woo-hoo, baby. With nothing but my powerful thoughts and energy, I can make these wands rock and roll. Just think what other magic I can undoubtedly do. So over this week, your homework, so to speak, is to be conscious that you can direct things with your thoughts, especially when you add your passion to them, that you can direct the energy around you. Our closing story is a 2-minute video from Steve Hartman of the CBS Evening News about 2 people who discovered this energy, the shifting of their focus allowed them to heal.
When Danny Shulkowski and his sweetheart Esther Fitzrandolph walked down the aisle last weekend, they did so in the usual way, but in a most unusual place. A hospital chapel.
In sickness and in health.
Just seemed like the obvious place to be married
Sickness and in health.
when our love started here.
As we first reported a couple months ago, Esther, who was divorced, and Danny, a lifelong bachelor, met at the University of Rochester's Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester, New York. They were both here for follow-up appointments after their heart transplant surgeries. They were both having complications, and they were both depressed.
I didn't want to do anything. I would just sit around.
I kind of refused the exercises and all that at times.
But after they started dating, they started improving. So quickly, their doctors couldn't believe it.
Sounds great.
Cardiologist Dr. Li Wei Chen says he and his staff didn't know about the romance.
We talked and said, yeah, she's doing better now. I wonder why. And yeah, he's been more active and involved in his care. I wonder why.
Today, Dr. Chen gives full credit to the healing power of love.
When your mind is in a better place and your heart, then you're going to heal better.
For the last few months, they've been living together on Carefree Lane. That's actually the name of the street, where this lifelong bachelor now hangs his new flowered coffee mugs.
This is even worse.
Living with a woman will clearly take some getting used to.
Honey, it's worse. It's not worst.
But Danny says he wouldn't trade this for the world, and he won't have to, thanks to 2 new hearts that are now off and racing. Steve Hartman on the road in Rochester, New York.
From the Gospel of Matthew, 14th chapter, 29th verse. Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when Peter looked away at the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. And he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace. This is now time for our tithes and offerings. And here again, when it comes to our finances, we need to be able to release perhaps things we were taught about money in our past, or even things we've experienced. Just be willing to hold what it is you're going to give today in your hand. If you give electronically on the website on our donation tab, just hold the amount that you're giving online. Just open your heart and pour love into it. Shift your focus and feeling to what would it be like if I had won that huge Powerball jackpot this week? Feel the release of care or a release of anxiety. And hold that feeling every time you handle your checkbook, your money, or your online billings in this coming week. And let's say the affirmation on the screen together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive, and I am grateful.
When the world gets in my way, I feel there's nothing more to say. I think I can't get through the day. I trust in God. When I'm feeling so much pain, like there's nothing left to gain, and everything is just insane, I trust in God. From the moment of my birth, as I stumble through this earth, searching for my own self-worth, I trust in God. In the darkness of the night, when I cannot see the light, I hold on to what is right and trust in God. I trust that all is well, all is well. When I seek, then I shall find that in God's creative mind, I'm no longer seeking blind, and all is well. In those moments of great sadness, when the world delivers madness, I remember there is gladness, I trust in God. When it's all too much to bear, and I'm too worn out to care, I still know that Spirit's there, I trust in God. I have laughed and I have cried, as illusion tried to hide all the light I have inside, I trust in God. No matter what they do to me, there is truth for me to see, and that truth shall set me free, I trust in God. I trust that all is well, all is well. When I seek, then I shall find that in God's creative mind, I'm no longer seeking blind, and all is well. I trust that all is well, all is well. When I seek, then I shall find that in God's creative mind, I'm no longer seeking blind, and all is well. When I seek, then I shall find that in God's creative mind, I'm no longer seeking blind, and all is well. My words cannot convey all the love that's in my heart, no matter cannot convey the understanding of my heart. You're a part of me this day, and we are both a part of the greater mind of God. I know it may sound odd, the mind of God, this I know. God is the ocean, God is the trees, God's the air, the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Everything we touch, everything we see, God is everything we are, everything we are. This I know. Still my words cannot convey what you mean to my heart. Your spirit joined me to pray, and together we will start to help the world to change. And yes, it may sound strange to change the world, because my words cannot convey what my heart knows, but will change the world. Yes, this I know, this I know.